All right, there we go. Let's get our other Facebook friends, folks, family up in here. Fiends, maybe too. I don't know. You throw in all the F words, the good ones. At least I don't know if fiend is a good one. There we go. 5 check marks across the board. Is that all of them? I feel like we're missing one. Nope, we're good. All right, guys. Welcome in. There's 6. What am I missing here?
No, you just can't count.
I can't count. Okay, I swear to God there was 5 just to... No, I count 5. I'm confused. All right.
All right,
well,
I got
way.
6 on my end.
Scott says we're good. I might have to take a screenshot. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. It is Tuesday night, which means it's time for an episode of Building the Broncos. I am Nick Kendell and joined by a good friend and co-host, as always on these Tuesday night shows, Carl Dumler. Carl, how goes things out in the great windy state of Kansas?
Things are good here, man. We finally got the cool weather moving in. It starts feeling like fall a little bit, and obviously football back this last week, so it's starting to feel like normal life again. But getting a little chaotic. Kids start school tomorrow, which is crazy to think about. And still got to go buy some school supplies right after this show because we moved our kid from one school to a different one. And, of course, they can't have the same list of school supplies. So, but otherwise, no, things are good. Just getting a little crazy out there with busy schedules and just excited to be here for this evening, getting a chance to get some normalcy of talking Bronco football.
Nice. Yeah. It's supposed to get hotter than heck here again on Thursday, saying 93 degrees, which will be the record-breaking, I think, 12th day of 90 degrees this year for Seattle, which is not normal, but hey, maybe it's the new normal. I'm supposed to backpack this weekend, but hey, there's a chance of a lightning storm, so we'll see if that happens because Nick cannot have good weather on a backpacking trip. That's the rule. With first, no fear coming in. Good evening, Nick and Carl and all of Broncos country. Good to see you. He also says, good evening. Again, he said it again. Okay, good. Diamond Rattler, boom, let's go. Diamond looking jacked. Good to see you, buddy. Andrew Morrow, it's been a second. Hope you're doing well. He said that these are who I heard were waived. Guard Ben Braden, safety Jamar Johnson, running backs Max Borghi, wide receiver Caden Davis, tight end Rodney Williams, and wide receiver Travis Fulgham. So I guess I'm going to be the technicality guy. Actually, Ben Braden wasn't waived. He was released to make room for the Joe Schobert signing yesterday, where the other 5 you listed were waives today to get the roster down to what it needed to be. So I guess that's the show, folks. No, thank you so much, Andrew, for listening to those out there. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Kathy coming in saying, I feel bad about Max Borghi. I liked him at Wazoo. Yeah, it's he had a couple really questionable runs in the preseason game where there was space. 90% of it is the offensive line, but a few Borghi didn't do that well. Also, I guess there was it was early, but I think there was a run-in with Borghi and Melvin Gordon that made Borghi not as liked by that running back in there, going a little bit try hard out there, but he'll bounce around. I think he'll end up getting another shot. Even if it's not this camp, it'll be next camp.
Yeah. I had somebody describe him earlier to me, and I thought this was a good one he is a wide receiver trying to play running back, but he's not fast enough to be a good wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's got good hands. I think he is a pretty good receiving back, it's important in the NFL to have those kind of guys. So like I said, I think he can catch on with an NFL team. I just don't know how much of an impact he can really have in the NFL. I think it'd be pretty minimal at this point. He's just on that small end. And if you're small, you better be fast. And he's not all that fast, I would say.
No.
I mean, he's not got that elite speed that you're looking for, at least. And like I said, in this last game, there were some bad runs for him where, I mean, he had maybe some of the best blocking of any of the running backs. I mean, it wasn't great blocking, don't get me wrong, but there was a few plays where there was great blocking and he missed it. Just didn't see the hole where it was opening up. And with all young running backs, I mean, Javonte Williams did this last year where there's plays where they just want to bounce it outside. They want the big play instead of, hey, let's pick up this 5 to 7 yards that's right here that we need, that gets us a great spot for being on second down and short and third down and short if you get to that kind of level. And so, like I said, he tried to bounce it outside and missed what should have been a really nice gain for the offense.
Yep. Feel bad. Again, hopefully he lands on his feet. And also, I think the biggest surprise, and so we'll get into each of these guys in the battles, but Kathy coming in saying Jamar Johnson just never made that step. So would you agree with me? Was Jamar Johnson the most surprising of this being on this list of the first waived players?
It is. When Turner Yell is out with a concussion right now, you kind of thought maybe Jamar Johnson would stay on just wait for that guy to get healthy. And I kind of expected that Jamar Johnson was going to get cut. So I'm not too worried about when they get cut per se, whether it's to get to the 85 or if it's to get to the 53, but it's still a little bit could have pushed maybe to get him on that practice squad and just hope that he could live up to that potential of where you drafted him and thought he was going to be something. I mean, I think you and I both really liked him coming out of college.
Mm-hmm.
He had some really nice plays and
for a fifth round.
Yeah, for a fifth. Yeah, I should say that he's not first round talent, obviously.
No,
but I probably liked him more than Caden Stearns when the Broncos were drafting at the safety position. And but obviously sometimes players just have that struggle of making that adjustment. And like Kathy says, he just never made that next step. He's not really shown that improvement that you hope from year 1 to year 2.
Yeah, and I just never really stood out. He's a safety depth player, and he's not a special teams contributor. So if you're not contributing on special teams and you're battling for the 4th or 5th safety, you're not going to stick around. And right. I think the main reason he stood out in college and as the draft pick in Indiana, coming out of Indiana, was his turnover ability. And he had that one play in this game where it was Wuzrike got pressure on a stunt and got in the face of the quarterback, and he just tossed it up. And Jamar Johnson just kind of jumps up, doesn't high point the ball, lets it get into his chest, and lets the wide receiver, who became a defender, knock the ball away. And it's like, well, the calling card, the trump card for Jamar Johnson was supposed to be turnover ability. And if you're not out there making a turnover type of play that you should be making, you're not contributing on special teams, questionable tackling versatility, you're going to be out of here. So I think this isn't just a negative on Jamar Johnson. We don't want to totally dump on the guy, but also speaks out, I think, for J.R. Reed, having a good preseason game, special teams ability. And Delarian Turner-Yell, I thought he did it okay. And Carl, in the press conference yesterday, I think Hackett said that Turner-Yell came back in that game after being cleared on concussion. So he should be okay, but we'll see how it plays out. Marcus Lewis-Henna coming in saying, how did you guys think Benito did in the game? Carl, I'll kick this one off to you.
It was very up and down. I mean, and it's kind of what I expected from him. He has the style of game that it's either going to be a really big play successfully or a really big play in the negative. And so there were some splash plays for him. He got great pressure. There was one great run stop where he beat the lineman to the spot and got into the hole, made the tackle. Great play. Loved it. And he did a lot of that in college. But then he also had plays where if he didn't win with that first step, he got washed out of the play. And then I think everybody will kind of remember where he spun the wrong direction. I don't know what all he was trying to do on that play, but all of a sudden he's kind of lost out in the middle of nowhere, and somebody else is having to come up and make the play. And so it's about what I expected from him. Like I said, you're going to see the big plays, and everybody's going to be talking about him. It kind of reminds me of Moody when he got his few starts this last year, and like he had the pancake blocks that everybody was going, "Oh my gosh, you got to keep this guy on the field." But then he'd have like 5 negative blocking plays that were just like, what are you doing, bud? And you got to get more consistent. And we said that when Benito was drafted, that he's just got to learn to become a consistent player that can be trusted to be on the field for 3 straight downs. Mm-hmm. Right now, I'd say he's more of a situational player for him, right? Probably just a situational pass rusher, which is valuable. Yeah. I just question, is it second round valuable?
Yeah, 64 overall, last pick in the second round. The speed rush he does have, the get off he does have is very good. And he also had a speed rush with a dip where he pretty much just ghosted the right tackle who's going up against the Cowboys as well. So that was good, but you're right. My big thing with Benito is I just don't know if he's ever going to be a plus starter in the league, because I don't think he's not going to get bigger. He has potential to be a good pass rusher, but he's always going to be limited because I don't think his frame is going to allow him to put on much more weight. And I just don't know if he's going to be able to anchor, set the edge like you'd expect a starting edge, which even if he's, your first edge off the board or kind of a hybrid player, like a Kyle Van Noy type of player, there's some value to that, but he's going to have to get better. He has to go from like an F to a D in the run defense department, which not there yet. And also be a little bit better in pass coverage as well, which he didn't look super great there in the game. But again, 64th overall pick. He did okay. And it's what he expected. It's just kind of hard for him to stand out when Baron Browning is looking as good as he's looking right now.
Right.
Phil McLaughlin coming in saying, good evening, Nick, Carl, and Scott. Wow, saw the video of the new locker room. First class. Has the stadium been fixed since the fire? Let's ride. God, I don't know, Phil. I guess it's working towards it, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if this is something that is still being worked upon. So I don't know. I haven't even thought about it. I know I'll let Russ cook memes there for a bit. And, with Broncos needing a new stadium with Walmart owners coming in, but I don't know if it's been fixed. I'm guessing it has, but we'd have to ask somebody in the operations side of things.
Yeah, they haven't said yes or no, at least publicly. I would guess they're probably working pretty hard to get that fixed by the time they have their first home game, just because, I mean, that's ticket sales. You want that money coming in as much as possible. And of course, they got the ownership now that can pretty much say construction crews will pay you anything to get in here and fix this. They're like, money is no option here. Just do it. And so I would guess by it's week 2 when they have their first home game, that'll all be fixed and ready to go.
Yep. So got a little bit of time, but hopefully it's progressing there. Want to say hello to Paul. Good evening, Nick, Carl, and Scott, the real OGs, two of the best guys. Paul, you're a great guy too. Thanks for joining us today. It's always good to hear from you. Hope you're doing well. Also, we got Jay Kozad coming in saying, not much of a surprise with this round of cuts. Hackett probably hates to cut players, being he's a players type of coach. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's true, but I think a lot of players dislike it as well. And I'm sure Peyton dislikes it too. So he's the one making the cuts. More obviously, it's a discussion. But yeah, it's an ugly part of the job, but also a lot of those guys had a chance to go out there and live dreams and cash a pretty good check as well for that time period. So
yeah,
again, a bunch of them will stick around and have other chances later on.
Have you ever worked a seasonal job before?
No, I have not.
Okay. I worked one time where it was high competition. You know, like we're bringing on 40 people, 5 of you will have a job at the end of the season. And going into that meeting, oh my gosh, it is nerve-wracking. I can tell you that. But I did make the cut.
Oh, hey.
Just got to do that little quick brag there. But
it was for this job.
It's I agree. I don't think Hackett likes it, obviously. Yeah. He loves his players. He invests in them. He tries to get to know them personally. And I mean, we saw, what was it? He went out with Russell and Ciara to a concert. You know, I mean, obviously that's his quarterback, but he does that with a lot of players where he's trying to get one-on-one time with them. And so, yeah, I'm sure this is probably the toughest part of being head coach, is being part of these meetings and figuring out who's not going to have a job tomorrow.
Yep. It's part of the business. It's the deal you make to get a chance in the league, but still sad and hoping for the best for all these guys, no matter what their future holds. Jay Kozad, he already got this one. We also want to say hello to Dylan coming in. Sup, Broncos country. Make sure you hit that like button on the way in and subscribe if you haven't already. Absolutely. EJ in the house. Good evening, Nick and Carl on Broncos country. I guess Jamar Johnson won't be taking over the strong safety job with K-Jax like we all expected. And I wanted to get into this a little bit. This is something that I really love about the draft theory here with George Payton. Obviously, this is one of his first picks that had a real chance and didn't make the team. But we've seen this now, back-to-back drafts now, where we'll go back to 2020 first. He took 2 players at the same position in the day 3 of the draft, in Caden Stearns and Jamar Johnson. Now, 5th-round picks don't normally hit, but if you need to try to find yourself a starter or a quality player at that position, it makes a lot of sense to take 2. I know a lot of fans will be like, oh, we just took a safety. Why would you do another one? The odds of a 5th-round pick becoming even like a first rotational player, not great. Most of those guys flame out. If we just went back over the history of the Broncos 5th-round picks, it would be rough. But we saw that in this draft as well. Matt Hennessy, Awuzurike as well, 2 interior defensive linemen, maybe not a 1-for-1 style-wise, but definitely 2 to keep an eye on for. And also you have Theon Hicks and Delarian Turner-Yell. So look out for that as part of the hedging. Day 3 picks don't have a good hit rate. You want to get a certain position, though? Take 2. If you have the draft capital to do it, take 2.
Yeah, for sure. And they are positions that usually have pretty expensive players. You think of like the defensive line. You're kind of hoping either if you're going to have to pay Chubb, you're probably not going to be able to play Draymond. Well, now you've got some options that maybe could fill in for him. That's the nice thing with the Broncos kind of moving some players around to the edge position. Maybe they can keep it cheap if they have to lose Chubb, that they can still have some starters out there that can actually do something for them. The Broncos they're trying to hedge for positions that they know are going to get expensive very quickly.
Yep.
And yeah, K-Jax, he's getting older. This is his last year with the Broncos, or most likely. I guess I shouldn't say 100%, but yeah, Sinji, thank you. My guys, Nick and Carl, you're our guy as well. So we appreciate that. And we appreciate all of you just being here with us this evening and getting a chance to talk Bronco football. And I love this one right here. Mike Gibbons, you are right. Good evening, Nick, Carl, Scott, and Broncos country. Good to hear Billy Turner and Randy Gregory are coming off the PUP list. That is probably the biggest news of the last few days, really. I mean, these cuts, they're important. But getting these 2 guys back on the field, how do you think Calvin Anderson did? Because he is one of the few starters that started.
I think he did okay, but reading between the lines and talking with people connected to the organization, doesn't sound like there's a lot of excitement going on with Calvin Anderson as being the starting right tackle. So a lot of hope that Billy Turner can get it going there. I think Calvin Anderson is fine as a swing guy, but I think a lot of people really stand for him as a player because of how much he interacts with, the common folk like us on Twitter. So it's that kind of thing where it's like, oh, let's separate the player from the interactions you have on social media. And doesn't sound like he's really taken it and run with the big opportunity that he's given.
Right. Well, it's kind of like Caden Davis. I know a lot of people were kind of excited. He's always listed as the guy's first out for every practice. Like, I think there wasn't a single practice that he wasn't the first guy out there. Yeah. The thing here in the NFL is it's cold-hearted. If you're not the talented guy, even if you are the harder worker, you might still not get the job. And that's always tough to see. You love to see the hardest working guys get the best opportunities to go out there and win. And Calvin Anderson, I mean, I don't doubt he's worked really hard to get his opportunity, but he's just always kind of shown he's that, like I said, he's a better swing tackle than he is probably a starter in the NFL. He's always going to be kind of that guy that's right on the edge of that roster for most teams.
Yep.
And he can have a long career being that swing tackle because, like I said, that's valuable. You need it. You need a guy that can come in and do okay for you at either position.
Yep.
But to actually be the starter, yeah, I've been pulling for Billy Turner. When we did our all AFC West team, I had Billy Turner as my right tackle. I think you did too.
I think I did too. That's the right tackles in the AFC West, though.
Yeah. But that's what you're kind of hoping for because he has a little bit more upside to actually be a quality right tackle.
And breaking news here, it was Drew Lock was going to be the starter. I don't know, not to keep bringing this up. Drew Lock was going to be the starter for the Seahawks this week, right? Versus the Chicago Bears in their preseason game, got first team reps for the first time today. This is via 40 seconds ago. Ari Mariov, My Sports Update, does a lot of stuff. Drew Lock just tested positive for the sick bug and is going to be out now. So I was hoping to see Drew Lock week 1 versus the Broncos because, man, the narratives just write themselves. But this probably does not help the cause there. So Drew Lock with the sick bug there. And there it is from Adam Schefter as well. So yep, that's there's the news there. Speedy recovery, Drew, man. I hope you feel better soon. And good luck. I hope to see you week 1 fully healthy and just for the narrative again. Good times. But sucks. Sucks to hear that. Greg Smith coming out. Let's say hello to some folks here real quick. Greg Smith, good evening. Good to see you, Greg. You need to figure out some emojis for the evening shows as well. He always gives us the croissant and the frying pan with an egg in it for breakfast. We need some dinner emojis too. Maybe some burgers and beers. I don't know. Clayton here on evening, guys. Long time no see, Carl. Smash that like button on the way in and share. Thank you so much, Clayton. That last one's really helpful too. Marcus also coming in saying, thanks for your comments, guys. Love and respect from the UK. Hey, I hope you get a chance to go hang out at the Broncos when they come to London. Be a good time. And also he says Broncos MHH for life. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you for the stars and the support on your end. We also got David McElrath coming in. Dave, it's always good to see you, buddy. Good evening, Nick and Carl and Scott in Broncos country. Good to see you. Mike S. What's up, Broncos country? And also Clayton asked yesterday, how many sacks do you think Chubb and Gregory get? I think he asked it this morning. But combined, how many sacks?
I'm going to put it around 20.
Oh, okay. You're high, I think. Because the availability and Gregory, I think, has never had more than 6 sacks in a year in the rotation. I cut you off. You just caught me off guard. Really startled me.
Okay. Well,
I'm about it. Let's do it.
Okay. I guess, yeah. I mean, it's high compared to what they've done in their career. But I'm banking on them both staying healthy the entire year. I guess that's what I'm going to do here. That's what I'm going to base my numbers off of. And I think if they're healthy, they could be at that, like one guy gets 12, the other guy gets 9. I think there's going to be a pretty big rotation amongst the edge rushers. And so those backup guys are going to get some opportunities. I could see one of the backups getting 5 or 6 sacks. And part of this is also based on, I really love the secondary. So I think there's going to be some coverage sacks that really make a difference with these guys that maybe wouldn't have been there last year.
Yep, absolutely. We'll see. I just think that how available they've been and also the rotational of edge rushers and also sending linebackers on blitzes as well. I think it's going to be the volume is not going to be there. And we didn't even talk about the availability of either of those guys too. So like when you see Vegas's over-unders for players, you're always like, oh my gosh, if you calculate that over 17 games, that's only, 240 yards a game from Russell Wilson. He'll beat that. Well,
Yeah.
they're baking in the chance that he misses 2 to 3 games. So
Right.
we got Greg Smith with the emojis coming in. We got a steak, we got a chicken leg, we got a burger, got a beer, got 2 beers, got wine, and we got looks like an old fashioned or something. It's a whiskey drink there.
I'll
So
take
that
it.
looks pretty good. Only one finger though. Come on, Greg, don't be stingy. We got Michael Ronquillo coming in. Good evening, Nick and Carl, and building the Broncos. Good to see you. Kevin Gray also saying no surprises. Love the new additions. Hi, Nick and Carl. Let's ride. And Carl, while we're looking over this, you talked about Randy Gregory and Billy Turner coming back. Excited about that. Any thoughts on the addition of Joe Schobert?
I like it. I mean, if I'm talking about how much does it move my needle for how this team's going to do this year, not really at all.
Mm-hmm.
All it does is it raises the floor of that linebacker room for me.
Yep.
It says some of those backup guys, I was pretty nervous about them. I think they had a decent game this last week. I wouldn't call it a great game. I mean, they had some nice plays. Sternad had that one really nice stop on the screen pass where he was like the only guy there and there's a blocker right in front of him and he did a good job sidestepping him to make the play. One of the best plays I've seen him make as a Denver Bronco by far. But at the same time, I just was still not feeling good if one of our starters went down, which Griffith did. Do I really trust one of those guys to come in Singleton for an entire game and be a quality player for them? Not really.
Probably not.
Schobert does a little bit more for me.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I think this is, again, another floor raising move. I know that the Steelers defense last year, the run defense specifically, was horrid. Now I think a lot of that falls on losing Stephen Tuitt. Also, Devin Bush has been pretty horrible coming back from that ACL injury. Definitely trending towards a bust, I guess. Even if the Broncos didn't hit the picks, Reisner would be Reisner's a more valuable player right now than I think Devin Bush is. And that was, 30 picks apart. So the linebackers sometimes, man. But the floor raising play, I think the linebackers for this team should be fine. I was hoping to see Jonas Griffith this year. I think this is probably a hedge on him, somewhat being young. And now you have him dealing with an injury. You'd never know about Josie Jewell given how many injuries he's had in his young career to date. I will be curious, though. I don't think Schobert or Jewell are neither of these physical dominating presences where you want to blitz them. And I saw a lot of looks from even in the preseason game, Ejiro Evero lining up the linebackers over the A gap or the B gap and sending them with different types of packages and dropping an edge rusher into space. Schobert doesn't really seem like that kind of guy. Neither does Jewell. So curious to see what they use there. Maybe this is a thing where that specific type of role, if Griffith's a little bit slow coming back, they'll use one of those edge rushers and have an extra one there over one of those gaps. But I'm fascinated to see how it all works out given the quality on the defensive line. And bringing this linebacker, I feel much better about the linebacker room. Still question the interior defensive line depth. I think that and the cornerbacks, boundary cornerbacks outside the top two are the biggest questions now on defense.
So let me ask you, if Griffith is ready to go week 1, who are the 2 starting linebackers for you?
I probably have, it depends on the down and distance. I think Griffith is more of the run package early down kind of guy, unless you're looking to specifically blitz with him. And where Schobert, I think, is more going backwards side to side, paired with Jewell being the standalone guy early on. It could change. Could be like Schobert's a little bit better in coverage and they take Josie Jewell off the field. I think that's probably, midway through the season because Schobert's still going to be pretty new to the scheme. But I think you're going to mix and match with Schobert and both Griffith early, depending on the package. And I also think this opens up the field and pathway for Griffith getting more special teams reps, which is what he was brought in to do originally. I mean, he was a special teams dynamo, height, weight, speed guy. Excited to see what he can do at linebacker, but now you're not dependent on him breaking out this year.
Yeah. It was tough when you watch. I mean, we only got a 2-play sample of him on the field,
but last year as well, he was great.
Right. But I mean, he looked great in those 2 snaps where he was in the right spot, right time. It was explosive, getting to the ball. I mean, he was right there when he dislocated his elbow, which I can't imagine that pain.
Yeah. Nope.
I've been around one dislocated elbow as a EMS.
Nope.
It looked bad.
Was it Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets? Was that the one you're talking? No. Okay.
Yeah. Something like that.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Andrew Baker coming in. Sup, Carl, Nick, and Scott, and fam. Hashtag building the Broncos for life. I like that hashtag. And also we got Travis Delaplane coming in here with a cute picture of his kid coming in saying, how about our backup that was on fire? Which backup do you think he's talking about here?
Well, I'm guessing Josh Johnson.
Yep.
Yeah. No, he did. He had a great game. He eased at least a little bit of my concern of him being a backup, considering we'd heard that he hadn't had a great camp. There's a lot of people who are kind of pushing for Brett Rippon to get that backup spot because he's having some of the more explosive plays. And so for Josh Johnson to go out there, look very calm, collected. I mean, that 2-minute drill, honestly, it's probably the best 2-minute drill we've seen since Peyton Manning retired for the Denver Broncos, at least. I mean, to make that work where even they had the bad play, the false start, cost you an extra timeout. You only have about 40 seconds to get into field goal range, makes the right throws, players get out of bounds. Like, it just, to make all that work, we have not seen that for so long. Vic Fangio was always kind of afraid of that 2-minute drill. He was more like, I just don't want to make a mistake and have it be what cost us this game. It's going to be nice to see Hackett be willing to go for it. Say, we got to go get these points. Like, these are important. Yeah. These are the little points that add up to the victories. So, but yeah, just to have Josh Johnson do that makes you feel a little bit better that let's not have to go out there and get a different backup. Like, there's a couple players that were cut here recently at the quarterback position. And I saw some people going, oh, Broncos, you should go consider this. Not at this point. I mean, the offense is pretty complicated. I feel good with Josh Johnson being that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. He did fine. And also it sounds like Josh Johnson Russell Wilson had part of the decision-making for Josh Johnson coming in. So don't want to disenfranchise Russell Wilson at all when we have a big contract coming up here pretty soon. Mario Lewis coming in with the hearts and the number one. Thank you so much. Jay coming in. Yeah, Benito does seem small framed. It's kind of a little bit of a tweener, but if he has great bend and twitch, he can get away with it. He just got to work to not take himself out of plays. Use leverage, man. Von Miller, despite his smaller frame for the edge rusher, one of the best run defenders in the league for a while. Beat guys to spot, knew what he was doing, won the leverage battle.
Yep.
Not there yet for Benito. Patrick McCray coming in saying, how do we look in the first preseason game? Carl, we haven't had a chance to talk about this. What do you think? Your general thoughts, your ups and your downs.
Well, I'd say the downs were offensive line run blocking. It was not pretty. They looked pretty out of sync. If somebody would lose a battle, guys were not working as one unit going across. There's a few plays where you saw a little bit of promise, but for the most part, the run game just was non-existent in that game. The defensive line also not very impressed. They got pushed around quite a bit. Cowboys were running on the Broncos pretty easily. I mean, 5-6 yards a carry there. And the only thing that kind of saved that was Cowboys decided to hold a lot. So it kind of usually negated some of those decent run plays for them. But beyond that, I really loved what I saw. I loved some of the rookies and what they brought to the table. Demar Mathis, he shut down his side. I mean, he looked great. Run defense for him. He made a couple of really nice run tackles, whereas him in space, that's what you love to see. If he's going to be one of the starters eventually, he's got to be able to make those kind of plays. And so it was nice to see that. I think a lot of people are too hard on Ojemudia in his game. It wasn't great, but it wasn't absolutely terrible either. It's not like he gave up these giant plays. He kept everything kind of in front of him. He was playing too far off. He should have been a lot more up towards the line of scrimmage, but
he had outside leverage and it looked like he was expecting inside help, but the safety and I think it was Bassey swapped roles and Stearns carried the slot player up the seam where he was, I think Bassey then didn't continue on. So definitely this upsetting, gave it that third down, but that's one of those ones where you did want to look at the all 22 and also talk with a player. What were you thinking here? What was your assignment? Were you supposed to have a outside leverage and playing it soft because you were expecting help over the middle? That's what it looked like to me. But again, want them to be a little bit more even. Like I said earlier, one of the bigger concerns in the defense now is, especially with Darby's injury history, the first guy off the bench there. Do you trust Ojemudia to be out there as your, one of your primary three cornerbacks?
Yeah.
I'm wearing my Iowa shirt right now, but he's a Bronco now, so I'm not going to try not to be biased to him anymore. And just hasn't been consistent out there. So hoping to see better. Hopefully he cashes in on the OTAs hype that he had. Yeah. Chase Wellner coming in saying, this is random, but could Browning be the third best edge in the AFC West, or the best number 3 edge in the AFC West?
He has the athleticism to be that for sure. I mean, we got to see it on full display. I mean, talking about the great things that were happening out there, you got to feel a little bit better about the edge depth. Malik Reed didn't embarrass himself by any means. He made some nice plays as a run defender. He was pretty much in position most of the time, made a couple really nice stops, and then even got a little bit of pressure. Bonito got pressure as well. And then, of course, Baron Browning, probably player of the game. I mean, if we're looking at impact plays, that guy was everywhere and showed a nice array of different pass rush moves, setting himself up with different spin moves. I mean, that spin move was classic. Gotta love it. And his ability to stay balanced as he came out of that spin move was something huge. And so, I think he could develop into it. Right now, if I was saying, yes, I wouldn't say he's the best one at this point. He's still got a long ways to go in his development. I think that's part of the main reason the Broncos kept him in for 4 quarters. Is they're going, we got to really develop this guy in a short period of time at a very important position. And because they're going to rely on him a lot this year, where he's going to be the number one guy to come in there and spell these starters. And like you said earlier, they've got injury history. There's probably a good chance he's going to start 2, 3, 4 games this year.
And even if he doesn't start, you're talking a lot of snaps because it's a rotational position. Right.
So, but he did well to show himself for that first game. And I think he could really develop into that. I think, you got to feel excited about that in the sense of, Bradley Chubb. Let's say he doesn't live up to the hype, or even if he does live up to the hype, can you pay him the kind of money that he's going to maybe demand? Well, now you might feel pretty good that you have a guy that could come in and be a starter quality guy for you. It's going to be on a cheap rookie contract. So 100%. That's the great thing you were talking earlier about, just how you're trying to develop this whole entire roster. This is what you're trying to do. You're trying to fill in those spots that could lose a player in a year or two.
Yep. And to answer Chase's question, right now I'd probably put the Chiefs having the best number 3 because Carl Loftus even had a better preseason week 1 game than Browning did probably. And I think I trust Carlos Dunlap a little bit more than Browning as well. Different kind of players, but probably say the Chiefs just because the sample size things, but Browning is definitely knocking on the door there. Phil McLaughlin with the stars. Thank you so much, Phil, saying I think I liked was communication and time management for the preseason game. Yeah, definitely a lot of communication, and I thought Hackett did pretty well to simulate being in a real game with the timeouts. Going into the first half or going out of the first half with 0 timeouts, good job.
Yeah, so I was listening to somebody the other day. They're talking about the Fangio period here with the Broncos. I guess a lot of players were really upset with how bad Fangio was with technology and communication. Like it took a long time to get plays into the huddle. And so then a lot of times they were breaking a little bit later than they liked. And he just had trouble understanding what his job was on each play. And, sometimes those older guys, they're not used to all this new technology that's right in front of them. Thankfully, Hackett, that's not a problem. No. Heck, he brought in one of the people that's on his staff is just here to coach the coaches, to coach them of how to communicate to these players. And so like the coaches love this guy, I guess, because they're like, hey, we bring all these ideas and say, hey, this is the point that we want to get across. How do you think it would be best for us to get this across to the players? And then the guy will design some kind of computer system or something like that to get the point across. So it's really cool to hear some of these new modern things the Broncos are bringing into the system.
Yeah. Absolutely. Adapt or die, right? I got to get into that. Just like these live streams. DeAndre knows what it's about. Let's see, we're getting closer to week 1, boys. Let's go. And also Mandingo giving us the announcement here that they just announced that the stadium has been repaired and they're ready for the season. Good to hear. Oops, sorry, Scott. I'll take my hand off here. You pulled one up. There we go. We got Charlie Dominguez coming up here with the stars over on Facebook. Thank you so much, Charlie. And if you have any questions for us, consider that a down payment. We'll get to you. I got Zebulon coming in saying Johnson should have been the practice squad if he doesn't get picked up elsewhere. I think the fact that he was cut this early means that he is not prioritized for the practice squad. They probably would have held on to him a little bit longer, but is what it is. I mean, the lack of physicality, the lack of special teams ability, probably not a starting safety. You're going to have to contribute on that third phase, and it just does not seem to be the case for him.
Yeah, and it's tough to see because he did make actually some decent plays in that Cowboys game, that 3rd and 1 where he made the tackle to hold him right there. That was a really nice open field tackle for him.
Yeah.
And he'd made another tackle right before that. And like I said, the interception, I don't know if it would have saved his job if he catches that, but it's at least that really big play that everybody's talking about. They're watching the film room. Everybody's cheering it on. That's sometimes the difference, whether you catch a football or not.
Yep. Absolutely. Todd Smith with Starry Night coming in here saying, Ride Broncos Country. Awesome to see you. And Greg helping us out here saying, subscribe to YouTube channel if you haven't already. I did today. Hell yeah, Greg. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And saw some comments here about the safeties. I like Caden, but I don't think he's ready to start yet. Played well as safety 3. And I saw a comment about Caden Stearns being the safety off the bench. So here we go. Stearns will replace K-Jack. Okay, so let's say, knock on wood here, because we're not wishing injuries to anybody, but especially the Broncos. Kareem Jackson misses a game. Who's the safety that comes out to replace him?
Probably Locke.
I think it's PJ Locke too. Yeah. Why is that?
Well, one, because he's been having an outstanding offseason. I mean, he's been the talk of the town, really. Kind of got you in trouble. But no, he had the great interception. Although I will say, and yeah, Kiowa, Kansas, that's a little ways away from me. But good to see you here. Always good to see another Kansan. And good evening, guys. Thanks for all your input on the team. Thank you so much. And John Leach saying, Broncos for life. Yes, exactly. And I saw a meme that said something about like, it's always weird that like kids pick their team when they're like 10 or 11. And then when they're grown-ups, they let it affect them, like their mood and everything, if their team does good or bad.
Yeah.
Something that they made a decision on when they were young. And yeah, doesn't make logical sense, but yep, we do. And Jeremy coming in saying, good evening, Nick, Carl, Scott, and Dylan. Good to see you here, Jeremy, as always. Always enjoy seeing your face pop up there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got a comment from Zach Martinez. Jamar Johnson is better than PJ Locke. Well, I guess that you disagree with the Broncos front office and coaching staff, and time will tell if you're correct. But again, Carl, why do you think PJ Locke would be the starting or the next guy off the bench if Kareem Jackson gets hurt?
Well, I mean, we saw it in that game. When he was in there, that guy's flying everywhere. And he's done well to get himself into position. Had the interception. I guess you could say it wasn't the smartest interception because it actually cost the Broncos 2 yards because it was a 4th down play. But at the same time, I don't blame a guy for wanting to make an interception. Yeah, like I said, he was in position to make a play. And that's what he's been doing all offseason. He's been making plays in training camp and OTAs, mini camp, all those kind of things. And he's built every single time. He's proven that each time as it builds up, it's not getting any bigger for him. No. And I think he can be a special teams guy for you as well. So if we're talking about a guy that really should be making this roster, it's him. And like I said, first guy off the bench. Seems like he loves this system and is just something's clicked for him. He's made that next step. Caden Stearns, it sounds like he's had kind of a down off season so far. Just hasn't looked quite like what he showed last year even. And sometimes that happens when you make a change in system. I know it's pretty similar, but there's still going to be some differences. There's going to be some differences in language, and maybe they're trying to use him a little bit different this year of what they're going to require of him. And maybe he's having a trouble adjusting to that. So right now it seems like Locke is the guy that they would trust to come off the bench.
I'm not going to disparage Stearns because I think that even if, let's say, OTAs and whatnot, he was not taking the reins and really running with it. I think that the role of Stearns, what we saw in that game where he did play one of the 2 starting safeties in base packages, there's a lot of plays and meat on the bone for him as a dime backer out there. We saw, I think he's dime backer number 1, which 2nd and 12 or 3rd and 10, that might be the Broncos go-to defense out there. You're going to see a safety in the box a lot. We saw a lot of number 30 Stearns and a lot of number 20 J.R. Reed in the box. So I think that you have a bit of a dichotomized or categorized positions here where Locke is going to be much more of the Kareem Jackson, over the slot or playing too high with Stearns more likely to play. He's still going to have snaps, but it's just kind of a different role. While they both will play the too high in base packages, probably not as much. So we'll see. There's going to be plenty of snaps for both of them, but I think you're right. Probably PJ Locke gets the biggest bump from snaps if Kareem Jackson does go down. So let's get into it. I had a good question here from K-Hop. K-Hop, always good to see you. What wide receiver will make the final 53 in your opinion? Carl, what do you think here? It's a tough one. It's your position.
This is because they all proved themselves really well in that game. Like, I mean, Fulgrim's probably the one guy that you're like, he didn't have a great game. And, well, he's already gone. So you don't have to worry about that one. I'll go Seth Williams because I think he does well of just setting up as that outside guy. Like, Tim Patrick was great when Cortland Sutton went down because they had very similar skill sets I mean, Sutton's a better athlete and better in and out of breaks and all those kind of things, but you at least saw the 1-for-1. And now with Tim Patrick gone, none of the other wide receivers kind of fit that mold of being that big, strong guy that can go up there, high point the ball, pretty good straight line kind of speed. Seth Williams is that one guy that kind of fits that. And he made some really tough catches, came down with that great touchdown. And so I could see him being one of them that they want to keep around. Kendall Hinton, I think he makes this team too.
No.
He's proven himself time and time again. Just when you think this guy, like, how in the world is he sticking around? Because what is he? Is he a wide receiver? Is he quarterback? Is he cornerback? He finds a way to just make enough plays to make a roster. And he can help on special teams. That's going to be huge for those back end wide receivers. And so, yeah, I think he'll get to stick around. And then there's probably going to be, do you think there's going to be one more, or do you think just two?
Did you say Montrell Washington as well?
Well, yeah, he's going to make it. Just his return ability, he's already on the roster.
I think it's Hinton, and then it's going to come down to Brendan Johnson versus Seth Williams. I think there will be 6 total. So right? Is that 6?
Yeah.
So with Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, KJ Hamler, Montrell Washington, that leaves 2 more spots. And I think Hinton is the safest of them all. Then it'll come down to Brendan Johnson and Seth Williams. I think Seth Williams right now has the inside track. Be the most likely guy, with hopefully Brendan Johnson sticking on the roster practice squad wise. But these guys are going to have a chance to battle it out here yet. And that's a battle that is yet to be determined, and probably one of the most interesting ones to follow. You were talking the preseason game 3. It used to be preseason game 4, where it felt like, oh man, this is some rough football. Not as rough as the Hall of Fame game, but some rough football. But there are things to tune in for in that battle specifically. Who is that 6th wide receiver if they do keep one? Can't wait. I have no idea, but going to figure it out.
Let me ask you this. Did Seth Williams look quicker than he did last year?
I thought he did a better job. Quicker is the right word. Yeah, I thought he did a better job in and out of his breaks, and I thought he played lower as well. I always thought that he used to play pretty high, especially in his hips, wouldn't sink very well. And that's something, when you're as big as him, you have to be able to learn how to play low, because it's momentum, right? If the higher up your force, your center of gravity is, the harder it is to turn. So it will be interesting to see how it plays out. But I thought he did look quicker. I thought Brendan Johnson looked better than him. Oh, we didn't even say Jalen Virgil also, who deserves a shout out. And I always preach about it. Special teams. He has a chance to be one of the better gunners on the team. And there's still Tyree Cleveland as well. So special teams is a dark horse for that 6th spot that we need to at least consider.
For sure. And we got Marcus Lewis-Henna coming in saying, do you think that we have the right outside linebacker yet?
I don't even know who's right or left technically, because I just look at them. One is edge 1 and one is starting edge 2. So I think that it's Randy Gregory and Bradley Chubb, with Baron Browning being hopefully your first guy off the bench. But Malik Reed has looked solid, and I've always said that Malik Reed as your 3rd or 4th edge rusher is fine. It's limited in the run game, but that's you would need rotation of guys. But as far as the starters, it's Chubb and Gregory. I mean, from pedigree to everything. Maybe the question more so is, can Chubb stay healthy and have a great season? But can Browning do enough this season where the Broncos are like, you know what? I think we can spend this money that we would have spent on Chubb elsewhere, because we really like what we see in Browning. That's a question that we'll see about, but that's more where my head goes for that, questioning the edge rusher spot this year.
Right. Well, I kind of think of it as, we've talked about this before, but if it comes down to whether you pay Draymond or you pay Bradley Chubb.
Yeah.
Well,
it could be both with the new ownership, with how the contracts.
You can make it work.
Yeah.
But, like, if you have to make a choice, well, then part of that evaluation is going to be, okay, if we lose this guy, who do we have to come in for him?
Yep.
Well, right now, I'd probably feel better about Baron Browning than I would any of the depth guys on the defensive line. Now, given 2 of them are rookies, they can make a giant leap year 2 that you start feeling really good about them. But right now, I mean, I don't think Aruzawike or Henningsen make you feel great right now about that position.
Yeah. I do think that this is something that Scott and I talked about on Monday on Broncos for Breakfast. But were you surprised at all that we didn't see any of Deshaun Williams in that game? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he did play some snaps, but I don't think I saw any Deshaun Williams out there, which is, considering what I thought of him coming into this game, that makes him pretty darn safe and a big part of the plans here, which I thought, great player starting this season in base when you have 3 interior defensive linemen. But to put that stamp on him was surprising.
I guess it was maybe more surprising for me with Mike Purcell.
He's coming off injury. He's older. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, I guess maybe that's the sign that he's safe too.
Yeah. Yep.
I was a little bit surprised just because I've heard some rumblings that the Broncos haven't been too excited about him this offseason so far. He's been okay, but nothing too outstanding. And there's talk of, like when cutdowns start happening, looking for that true nose tackle, seeing if there's a guy that you can get for cheaper option.
Cheaper, younger, healthier.
Right. All those kind of things. And so, but I feel like this kind of makes it a little bit where they're kind of going, yeah, he's going to stick around. He's going to be around here. So for us, I don't know.
Yep. We'll see. The interior defensive line is definitely, we talk about the rotation, you wanting that at edge rusher. You also need that on the interior defensive line. So we'll see how it plays out. Excited to see who plays this next game too, seeing if we have any starters, because was not super impressed with number 95 and 92 out there for the Broncos defense. I thought Henningsen had a good game, but those two other interior defensive linemen, when they got reps out there, were on skates. Now, part of that is because first round pick of the Cowboys, Tyler Smith, is that powerful. He's might be one of the more powerful offensive linemen in football already as a rookie. 20-year-old from Tulsa. I mean, God, he just blasted Harris out of a few plays. It was unbelievable. But definitely a position where the Broncos, we talk about the bevy of edge rushers. You have this guy, you have this guy, you have this guy. Do not feel nearly as good about the interior defensive line. Mike Hamner coming in and talking. Let's take the foot off the negative gas here for a second. Isn't it great that we are back in a place with regards to talent and hopefulness? It's so good to be in this space. Ricky Bobby, I don't know what to do with my hands. Carl and I have been covering this team since prior to the Garrett Bowles draft, which would have been 2017. And we've yet to cover a Broncos team that finished with a winning record, I think. Don't know how to feel other than I'm really happy that we're not arguing about Teddy Bridgewater versus Drew Lock anymore, or trying to talk ourselves into Joe Flacco or Case Keenum or salvaging the Paxton Lynch pick. Did I miss anybody in there? I remember there was a few people who thought Kyle Sloter should be the starter, those kind of things. So thank God we've moved on and we can talk about much more fun things.
It feels like you're living in a parallel universe when you read from Seattle media and hearing about their quarterback battle. I mean, like almost headline for headline for what the Broncos had last year. It's just kind of crazy to see that. And so you're right. You're getting to talk about having too many wide receivers. Like, which one do we cut? Because we feel like they could all be on this roster and be happy about it. Maybe you're looking at trying to trade one for the Broncos. And we talked about edge depth. We didn't even talk about Jonathan Cooper.
Nope.
A guy that actually had a start last year and looked pretty decent in that Cowboys game and didn't look like a 7th round pick, if we're talking about that. And so, there at edge rusher, you're starting to feel pretty good about the depth you got there. Now we got off-ball linebacker looking a little bit better with Schobert coming into the picture. Safety, again, we're talking about who's going to be coming in. Caden Stearns, who looked really good last year. Now you got PJ Locke, who's really proven himself well. Turner Yell, who's coming in looking he had a pretty decent game, I thought, in the preseason. So, like I said, you're starting to feel really good about some of these positions. Now, still got to worry about offensive line. Like you said, defensive line, you're a little bit concerned. Cornerback depth, who's going to be that true number 4 guy for you? Honestly, I'd probably pick Mathis if I'm picking anybody right now. I feel that good about him right now.
Well, that's good. I'm waiting to see on Mathis. Right now, it seems like Ojemudia is getting the first shot with Mathis more inside-outside versatile. But we'll see. Cornerback is question going forward. But we're going to get more games of these guys seeing them. As long as Darby, we don't need to see Darby or Surtain at all in preseason, as far as I'm concerned. Let's keep those guys healthy. We also got Jeremy saying, listening to Forging the Falcons shows me how blessed we are as Bronco fans. Yeah, Falcons are in a dark place right now. But they're trending the right way. They're not rudderless. I think they're towards a bouncing off the bottom season, which can spring you forward. Just look at the example I keep using on the show is the Bengals. Things were pretty listless there for a bit, but they got the first overall pick, Joe Burrow, and then they got Jamar Chase, and they had a bunch of cap space because they got the books in line. Things can change, turn around very quickly in the NFL if you have direction.
Right. I always think of like Carolina right now. That place is a mess.
Yeah. I like a lot of their defensive pieces.
They got some, but it's still like Don't know exactly what all they're doing at quarterback. It's like they're just throwing as many darts at the board as possible and just hoping one of these former first-round picks can do something. I guess there's worse idea that you could have out there than doing that, but maybe Geno Smith and Drew Lock battling it out. But yeah, I just feel like you're right. I think the Falcons at least have some kind of plan and action. They're building towards something bigger. So sometimes you just got to have that patience, like we've had for the last 6-7 years here in Denver. You're hoping now we've got a plan in place. George Payton's got this figured out. He knew it was going to be a 2-3 year plan, and now we're starting to see it come into action and feeling really good about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeffrey coming in over on Facebook. Good to see you, Jeffrey. Hope you're doing well. Happy Tuesday to you. Saying, do you see us picking up any players cut from other teams to upgrade certain positions? I think there's definitely a chance for a wide receiver. I think there's a chance for tight end. I think there's a chance for maybe interior defensive line and maybe cornerback as well. Those are the positions I have my eyes on right now. Anyone else? Anywhere else? Right tackle. But I mean, I feel like the issue with right tackle is that the reason the position is so valuable is because the scarcity of the position. So you're not really finding guys off the street where you probably can with wide receiver, linebacker, maybe cornerback, not as much as those other twos, but definitely areas to look at.
Right. No, I'm with you right there. You would hope for somebody to be cut. The only way that a right tackle that of any quality is hitting the market is because their contract is just so big. The team's kind of going, we got to get this under control.
Probably would have already happened though.
Yeah.
Right. Like that guy would have already been cut. So I don't know. You're probably your bet is made there and you're hoping for the best. Good luck, Butch Berry. You better get it done. But we'll see. Charlie Dominguez coming in here. How do you guys feel about the Broncos getting no love in the top 100 rankings, NFL top 100? From what I've seen so far, we have Russell Wilson at 61, and we also have Justin Simmons at 81. For me, this is a bunch less, even less meaning than Pro Bowls coming in here, the voting list here. And the Broncos will not get respect until they win. So start winning things next year. The list a year from now will be a lot more enjoyable. But for now, let them hate, I guess. We'll use a moniker from a darker time.
Yeah. I mean, you think about during those Peyton Manning years, Broncos were just all through that list like crazy. And so Russell Wilson, I mean, he's had other players get big bumps because of him being on the field for the Seattle Seahawks. You got to think about like wide receiver being such a dependent position. Well, we don't know what Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy could be. It wouldn't surprise me if either of them are a top 50 player on that list next year after they go for 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns. Could happen. You know, you think of offensive linemen. I think, did Garrett Bowles make the list?
I don't think we've gotten that high yet, but based on the names I'm seeing here, not likely.
Okay. You know, maybe he gets back onto that kind of area. You know, he had that second team All-Pro season. Could probably
Rashawn
do
Slater
something.
came in at 79. Is Garrett Bowles better than Rashawn Slater? Tyron Smith, 92.
Right. And, you know, again, a lot of these players are being listed because they're on those winning teams. Like Mac Jones being on that list. He did not have a top 100 season.
No.
Like for a rookie, it was decent, but not top 100. Come on, people. So he just gets kind of that bump, one being in the Boston market. So he gets a lot of talk national wise. And then, like I said, he had a decent season. They made the playoffs. People are talking about him.
Yep.
I don't think he'll make the top 100 this next year.
Yeah, probably not. Dolph World coming in. Should the Broncos trade for Roquan Smith? Any trades or sign someone? I think if the Broncos are making any trades, they're trading players away to get picks. Right now, what do they have? Only 4 or 5 picks. The only one in the top 100 is the 3rd round pick. They're definitely looking to add assets for the offseason to get some more young, cost-controlled players to give themselves flexibility in the draft next year. So maybe they can go out and trade for a veteran or something like that. So I think the Broncos are more likely to take away some back-end talent on this roster to accumulate draft picks because 4 is not nearly enough. And as far as Roquan Smith, it all comes back to we already have 3 players after this season that are going to be getting probably some pretty big contracts. Russell Wilson being one, even though he's still under control, he's going to get paid. And then you have Bradley Chubb and Draymond Jones, way more valuable positions than the linebacker spot, in my opinion. And also Roquan then is also going to cost you draft picks, which we already talked about. You don't have many draft picks, so don't think it's going to happen. I think the Joe Schobert signing is about as good as it's going to get for the Broncos addressing the linebacker spot as far as the guys who are going to play meaningful snaps, I guess. So that's what you should expect.
Right. Well, and you think about it, now the Broncos have 3 guys that have decent starting experience in the NFL: Singleton, Schobert, and Jewell. All of them have played a lot of snaps. And Griffith, you feel really good about him. And you said it earlier about the Broncos playing a ton of dime.
Mhm.
Well, that means most likely 1 or 0 linebackers on the field.
Yeah.
So you really don't want to keep adding to that position when they've devalued it in this system. He's coming from the Rams system. And I know you can do this, but can anybody name one of their linebackers from last year?
Von Miller, outside linebacker.
Well,
But
off
yeah,
ball. Yeah.
the
Off ball
second
linebacker.
level.
Can anybody name one of their players? Probably not. It wasn't a valued position.
Yeah.
They figured good enough is good enough. Like we can make this system still be elite even without that kind of player being there.
Yeah.
So you just got to keep that in mind. There's certain positions in each system that are more highly valued than others, and some of them that are lower. I think of, like for Fangio, he really put some more value, I'd say, on safeties than some systems. A lot of systems don't have value for safety. You think of the Wade Phillips system. He valued those outside corners and their ability to cover one-on-one. That's why Aqib Talib and Chris Harris and Marcus Lewis, thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciate it, you out there in the UK. Go get some sleep, but thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, appreciate you really contributing to the show today. And I will say about the linebackers for the Rams, it's a lot easier to play 0 war players out there when you have Aaron Donald in front of you, and Jalen Ramsey. But I digress. Your point still stands. Linebackers, safeties, you don't have to spend premiums to get good players there. So we'll see how it works out. But excited about the defense overall. I thought they looked really good. And I kept saying early in this, with you, with Scott, with Luke, early in the year, I expected the Broncos offensive line needing to come together because I thought the passing game was probably going to take a little bit of time with Russell Wilson. This is probably is somewhat even exacerbated by the Tim Patrick injury happening. But all the offensive line worries are now ramped up even more. I'm feeling better and better and better about the defense, really. Maybe it's going to be the defense that leads this team through some early games, first quarter of the season, where, you have a little bit more of a feeling out period with the offense starting to gel and whatnot, rather than the running game needing to come together to help hold the hand of the passing game, which is no disrespect to Russell Wilson. It's just that the coordination takes a little bit of time. Remember the first 5 games with Peyton Manning? Not great in 2012, and then caught fire. Sometimes it takes a little time.
Tom Brady and the Bucks, I think they took about 8 games before they really started figuring some things out.
Yep.
And so you're right. If the defense can kind of carry them through, I'd say the easier part of the schedule.
Yep.
You can go win some of these games that 24 to 20 because of this defense. And so thankfully that's going to be the nice thing, is it kind of reminds me a little bit of that 2012 season, where they did have a top 5 defense and a top 5 offense. Once the offense got going, all of a sudden those two working together, it was a thing of beauty. Man. And I hope we have better results than how that season ended. but I could see something very similar to that of, like I said, give it 5 games, 6 games, and then all of a sudden that offense starts clicking. Defense doesn't have to carry them every single week. And boom, you got yourself a very nice 1-2 punch going at them if you can win so many different ways in the NFL.
Yep. No, absolutely. Well, guys, we're about at an hour now, and Chad wants us to go 45 minutes, but we're just so trained for that hour. So sorry for the extra 15 minutes. We won't charge you on that one, but we got to get on out of here. Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you're joining. If you're on Twitter, make sure you're following Carl on Twitter at Carl Dumler, MHH, and myself as well at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also, make sure you're following our show-specific account at BTB Football Pod for Bullying the Broncos, and of course at Mile High Huddle, the mothership account, where it's not only the podcast stuff coming out there, but all the articles, bountiful of articles, and that's just ramping up as the season progresses. Make sure you're checking us out and following us on Facebook with our Facebook community there at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod, as well as facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. And of course, as the ticker says underneath there, if you're joining us on YouTube today, please subscribe, like, and share. Click the bell icons. That way, when we go live. I know YouTube sometimes with StreamYard can be a little bit spotty, but if you click that bell notification, you'll know when we go live. So That way you're not going to miss the show, and you're not going to want to miss the shows. We are, God, so much morning shows, evening shows. We might as well just stream 24/7. Don't tell Chad I said that. He'll make me do it. No, but no, that'd be great. Scott actually would be the one who would be streaming 24/7 if we did that. But no, appreciate you guys coming in today. Thank you for all the kind comments. And Carl, what's the rest of your night looking like?
Well, like I said earlier, I think I got to go to the store, get some school supplies. And then I told the guy I'd meet him at the gym, go get myself a workout in. I've been doing all the running. Now I got to get into the gym and see if I can build up some of this muscle. I got to take up more of this screen.
Yeah. It's bulk season, baby. Winter's around the corner, man. We're almost out of summer here. You got to be ready to carry a 50-pound pack up a mountain with me next year.
That's right.
But all right. Well, guys, we appreciate you. We really great in the comment section today. Really do appreciate everyone coming in and being positive and a lot of good conversation. We'll see you guys tomorrow on Scott's show, Forging the Falcons, if you want to hang out with Scott and I again. If not, then we'll see you tomorrow night for Mile High Insiders, Luke and myself. But until then, like I always like to say, make sure you guys are choosing compassion and kindness. Go Broncos.